always make the statement, or have made this statement many, many times ago, but one of the greatest policy errors of the last 50 years is the privatization of retirement plans. And I say that for a bunch of reasons, but one of them being that you lose the pooling, the longevity pooling benefits, which are just unbelievably powerful. But also because now you're requiring every individual to get a relatively deep understanding of investment and retirement optimization, which, are fairly specialized fields. And so anyways, I'd love to maybe, do you have any reaction to that?
No, I couldn't agree more. We had a defined benefit pension system in the US, and we gave that up for defined contribution, where instead of centralizing and pooling risk and having a centralized management of the process, right, everyone had to become a financial planning, retirement planning expert to figure out how much to save, how to allocate, how much to spend, and everything else. And it's not necessarily the most efficient way to help people prepare for retirement when it's easier to accommodate that and use risk pooling as part of that process through a traditional company pension.
But there's definitely some trade-offs when you're thinking about defined benefits, right? And the risks that are imposed on whoever is promising that particular defined benefit. So I guess, would you be able to steelman the argument as to why defined contribution would be preferable to defined benefit? I'd like to hear the steelman on both sides of that argument before we jump into your own.
Yeah, well, the advantages of defined contribution is just one, it's more portable, so that if you're switching employers, it's much easier to take your assets with you. And defined benefit pensions could really discourage or really force people to stay at the same job, because the pension might really ratchet up in the final years before retirement. So that gives people a lot more flexibility and freedom. And of course, just being able to manage their own assets, make decisions that could be different from what the pension fund would have done, could be valuable for some people. So that would be the main arguments in favor of defined contribution.
Okay. Are there any jurisdictions around the world that have sort of solved this problem, so that they have a system set up that allows for that labor dynamism, right? So you can change jobs and you've got that flexibility. But that also does a good job of preserving that longevity pooling and sets it up so that the majority of assets are largely guided by professionals rather than individuals?
Well, even Social Security, to some extent, allows for that portability. So yeah, a lot of countries do have a nationalized pension system like Social Security, but unlike Social Security, may invest in a more globally diversified type of portfolio rather than the special issue treasury bonds that Social Security uses. But yeah, a broader public pension system would be more common in other countries and can give you those features that a private employer-based defined benefit pension can't.
Right.
Are there any countries that come to mind that you think are sort of on the more optimal side of the retirement approach?
Well, I think maybe the U.S. is somewhat unique in that so much risk is placed on the individual rather than being pooled more collectively. So in other countries, you don't necessarily have as much need for this retirement income planning, because you're not necessarily exposed to long-term care shocks. You're not necessarily exposed to healthcare spending shocks. You're not necessarily forced to depend on the stock market to fund your retirement, because you do have a larger collectively pooled pension system. So in that regard, yeah, many countries may actually have lessons that we could learn in the United States about how to structure a pension.